I have been teaching sociology of families for 12 years, but I've actually been teaching sociology of gender for 9 years. And so I oftentimes, depending on the semester, I'll have both classes, or I'll go back and forth, a couple of sections of one. I mean, when students don't always know this, and don't get me started on a tangent, when you're a part-time teacher like I am, I just have a master's degree, and that means I'm an adjunct at the school. We don't get to pick what classes we teach. We get told what classes are available to us. And so, in a perfect world, well, in a perfect world, I pick all kinds of stuff. But in a perfect world, like I get sad when I have a semester that I don't have both of them. But I'm telling you this because for as much time as I spend with families, I spend with gender too, for the most part, going back and forth or simultaneously. And so that means I have a favorite gender theory. If you've taken gender with me, you know, because I utilize this in the gender class too. And I basically lecture on it the same way. So sorry, it's duplicative. But I think Weston Zimmerman do a really good job of kind of showing us the details of gender that we can all understand that kind of help us go, oh, yeah, we are doing this, aren't we? So the first part is that it's routine and it's methodical. I am the worst morning person in the whole world. Getting up is incredibly painful for me. Like, I just waking up, oh man, if you're really good at it, I'm impressed. I'm bad at it. But I do get up every morning, clearly, and I exercise, which I'm still like mystified about, even though like I literally been exercising pretty much every single day since like 2017. So, we're a ways in, but I'm still like, exercise. Um, I think oftentimes this is a gendered phenomenon when your body doesn't demonstrate, right? When you visually can't see like muscles and you're a pudgy middle-aged lady. I almost said middle-assed. That's professional. When you're a pudgy middle-aged lady, you kind of have to be like, I know, do you believe it? I exercise. It's totally, we could unpack that in relation to gender for quite some time. But this idea of like, what we do every morning. I have naturally curly hair that is graying, that I think I have like three different kinds of shampoo or something that I switch back and forth between because I'm like convinced, or I've been convinced, I've been sold a bill of goods that it's going to do something. Or sometimes you're only like with curly hair, you're supposed to wash it here and there. Like you're supposed to like co-wash with conditioner. I don't even know, right? If you're like, lady, why are you going on and on about this stuff? Like, do you want to hear? I don't wear makeup. I do fill in my eyebrows. Not always, but now they're getting gray. So, like, what? I need to go back to like Ulta or something and be like, do you have a grayish eyebrow pencil? I have a routine. We all have a routine. We get ready the same way every day, or we make a change, or we fall for a shampoo, ad or whatever it is. But we all have this routine, and it's methodical. That's why I'm explaining these inane details of my life. You like pay attention and analyze and think that you're doing the thing that you want to do, and you are. But at the same time, like you're making all of these gender decisions and you accomplish gender every single day. So I will go through my days. I fit into the binary. I am female bodied and feminine, and I accomplish gender. The other part of it is that I manage my behavior in the ways that I'm supposed to be a person who identifies as feminine, right? The norms, the unwritten rules of femininity. So the ways that I need to act. So that is Weston Zimmerman's gender theory. I just use the term binary. Binary in general is a system of two, things that are always opposing, like black and white, day or night, yes or no, that type of stuff. And so when we say that we have the term like gender binary, what we're saying when we keep to binary thinking, it's very limiting, right? There's only two choices. There's people who are female bodied who are feminine and male bodied who are masculine. And that is not accurate by any means. I believe almost 2% of our population are intersex, let alone anybody who is non-binary, gender expansive, transgender. Like there's so many different variations and options and expressions and lived experiences of gender. Yet our society kind of sticks to this gender binary, right? And so thinking about the limitations of that. And specifically, as we explore families, how does that manifest within families? That can manifest in gendered roles, like in relation to care work. We've talked about that. what other kinds of ways can families possibly cultural norms, which oftentimes overlap with familial norms? So the different manifestations of the binary within families, like where are gendered freedoms and where are kind of the moments where parents kind of step in and regulate kind of almost like gender performance. So, with socialization in general, that's when we're learning all the ways that we're supposed to act. The image right there, you can see. If you are socialized as feminine, as I am, um, to sit with your legs spread like that, ooh, that would be weird, right? That would, and weird is kind of one of those coded words in relation to norms. Like, oh, that's weird, don't do that. But that's also a moment with families. Families are going to be like, do this, don't do that, do this, don't do that. And sometimes it can be especially I think in relation to femininity. My daughter, my daughter, how do I describe this? It's between me being a mom and me being like sociological. I'm at war with myself. Um, she would like to wear very revealing clothes, and that can be problematic from a society level of safety. And I'm not endorsing that. I'm not endorsing managing women's bodies. I'm not at all. Mm-mm. But at the same time, it's that uncomfortable balance. Like so many parents are saying, no, you can't wear that. But the no, you can't wear that is based upon society, right? And the possibilities that we real and perceived, I suppose, to a certain extent, that that is communicating something. Yet schools and dress codes. My goodness gracious. My nieces and nephew, they go to private Catholic schools. The list, because my sister shared it with me, the dress code list for the winter dance, which, what do they call it? Winfo? Wofo. Wofo. Because it's Hoko and Wofo now. I'm sure that's already on its way out. But anyways, the list of management rules, details for every person going to that dance that identifies as feminine was, I'm not even joking. Should have like saved it. Maybe she sent me a picture. It had to have a dozen things on it. And the list for people who identify as masculine for going to these winter dances, I don't know, wear a tie. Like it was not micromanaged in the same way at all. And so thinking about the ways that we kind of grapple with this in relation to families. It's not necessarily just clothes. Sometimes some of the hurtful, problematic, limiting messages that people who identify as masculine can hear from families. I think the one that kind of ends up being cliche, but is kind of like with all cliches, they're rooted in some level of um, like the fact that they exist, is that idea of, boys don't cry. So, oh, you're big and tough. Like those kind of messaging. How does parenting and gender socialization come together? And even quite honestly, as you did an activity where you went through and you thought about what are words that describe a mom? What are words that describe a dad? What are words that describe a parent? Like there's oftentimes um, nurturing can come up or something along those lines, patient, something like that with mothering. Humor oftentimes comes up with fathering. I'm trying to remember what else. Sometimes like a little bit like rule thought, like rule keeper, like the disciplinarian, a little bit depends. Although disciplinarian can come very much, it can be said in relation to mothering too. Students oftentimes do. But even honestly, take a second and think about maternal disciplinarian and paternal disciplinarian. We see it in a different way. Like gender seeps in to so much of what we experience. So, other ways that gender can impact, or rather, parenting can impact gender socialization, is through the stereotypes and attitudes that parents hold, the ways that like parents attribute. It's not so much like the societal kind of assumptions of how gender should work, but it's like the belief that gendered behaviors themselves are innate, right? That a boy should be tough because men are tough. Like it's kind of like the argument of nature versus nurture, right? So that idea that the attributions being like, I am attributing these behaviors, these requirements to this gender as like an innate um, experience. So things like identity. Essentialism is kind of sticking to the binary again and saying that there's kind of only these two choices. The ways that we communicate, possibly being a little bit more sweet and affectionate and patient and loving and, high pitched voices and stuff with like little girls versus boys, just kind of paying attention to our communication styles. The role modeling of the parents and their gendered expression themselves. And then when we negatively evaluate behavior in relation to gendered expectations. So, um, that kind of that you can't do that because type of stuff. So, okay, last thing to discuss. We're going to be discussing this in our discussion board this week. I grew up in the 80s, which was like the renaissance of children's toys. We had everything. We were very, very, very lucky. Cabbage Patch Kids, Care Bears, Rainbow Bright, My Little Pony, that all came out of the 80s. Barbie predates that, but Barbie was, alive and well in the 80s, all different kinds of Barbies. I loved Peaches and Cream Barbie. That was one of my other favorites. But for like my 8th birthday, I got Barbie and the Rockers. And I would say this is one of the more highly gendered toys that I adored playing with. What did Barbie and the Rockers teach me? Apparently an affinity for neon clothing and the possibility of all of a sudden just coming out of nowhere and being a rock star. Um, but like the ideas of like Barbie in general, and think about the growth of like the Barbie brand and how it has tried to be um, more inclusive in recent years. So whether that is body inclusive, I can't even say that word, you know what I'm meaning, possibly careers and all of those types of things. So, STEM scientist Barbie is going to be teaching little girls more things about careers than my dear precious 1984 Barbie and the Rockers did. For my very favorite, I would say gender neutral toy, and you might find too that your favorite gender neutral toy was a game. Games count, right? I don't know. It's our rules, we get to say. The game memory, that's the one where you lay out all the cards upside down and then you try and flip them over and find the matching cards. It's such a simple premise, but for some reason I love it. I will still buy like various cute designed memory games nowadays because I don't know, just to me, it's challenging, but I sometimes can kick ass at it. And that's always kind of fun in a game. Thinking through kind of our socialization, what choices did our parents make? What choices did our families make that shape who we are today, that shape our routine, the way that we're methodical, and all those types of things? Hopefully, this week gives you a whole heck of a lot to think about.